What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. You guys, Derek and Cody with you as always. Guys, bringing you some key points for an Indianapolis Colt victory against Denver, hopefully, this upcoming Sunday in week 2 of the NFL season. But before we get into that, just want to say, guys, that this episode is sponsored by FanDuel. Right now, guys, the Indianapolis Colts, we are underdogs in our own building against this Denver Broncos team. If you are feeling disrespected by that notion, make sure you guys head over to FanDuel and take advantage of said circumstance. But guys, let's hop right into these keys to victory here. And the number one thing that Cody and I could come up with was protecting Daniel Jones. Obviously, what you saw Daniel Jones do in the last game, did a very fantastic job. And, the Tennessee Titans, they did not do a great job of getting Cam Ward protection in his first NFL game. Cam Ward was sacked 6 times by the Denver Broncos defense. Certainly not a recipe for success, Cody, if you are looking as a young quarterback to figure it out. Now, I will say this. In that last matchup against Miami, the Indianapolis Colts, when facing the Miami Dolphins blitzed more than anyone else in the National Football League in week 1. They nearly blitzed on 50% of all dropbacks. And the Indianapolis Colts gave Daniel Jones his third fewest pressures in any game in his entire career. The man has played 80-plus games, and this is the third lowest pressure rate he has ever faced, yet he faced the highest blitz rate of any defense in the NFL in week 1. So it's a good recipe. Can they keep it up, Cody, though, against this Broncos defense, which definitely is a lot more tenacious?
Yeah, this is really going to be a strength on strength for me, Derek, because Denver has some really good pieces to get pressure on the quarterback on a consistent basis, right? So, yeah, for me, it's going to be that Indianapolis came off a really good day protecting Daniel Jones. Only sacked once. I think it was 8 pressures in total they allowed, which is darn good considering how much they were on offense, and how many times they attempted the pass. So, you'll take that, but also, like you said, with Denver and what they did against the Tennessee Titans, albeit not a great Titans offensive line, but still, they were able to make Cam Ward very uncomfortable all day long. And even though their offense didn't really get going, their defense really won them that day. They kept them in that game to ultimately come out victorious, right? So, yeah, that is one thing I'm very fascinated on. Similar to last week, Derek. I mean, we heard all the time about Miami's got this great front seven. They've got these guys that can rush the quarterback. And Indy, to their credit, they did a great job of giving Daniel Jones as much time. And, if you give a guy like Daniel Jones time, he's going to find the open guys, right? Any NFL quarterback, for the most part, is going to do that. So, yeah, if the Colts can keep Daniel Jones relatively clean back there, I think that'll be a huge, huge thing, especially now that we saw when you give him a clean pocket, he can make some really good throws. So, if you're able to do that, give Daniel Jones the time to work, I think you're going to be feeling pretty good about where you're standing. So, yeah, if you can keep Daniel Jones upright for the most part and allow him to do things that you have on script a little bit, I think it's going to go great for you. I really do. Because we already know, Derek, the Colts, they've got some weapons, man. They've got guys. They've got, the receivers they had last year and this year, and now adding Tyler Warren, who led you in both targets and receptions last week. Like, if you can allow Daniel Jones the time to find his guys, Colts offense is going to cook, man. They did it last week. They'll do it again if you give them time. But that's a big if, because like we said, this Denver defensive line, they are tenacious, man. And similar to this Colts defense, they're going to send some guys too. They're going to blitz. They're going to bring their own guys. So are the Colts able to, again, sustain it for another week? A really blitz-happy team potentially here in the Denver Broncos, very aggressive defensive coordinator in Vance Joseph. If they do that, I think they'll be good. And it was a good test in week 1, like you said, with all the blitzing that Miami did. Maybe that's a good sign and help them prepare for what's to come.
And who knows? Maybe Vance Joseph thinks higher of Daniel Jones and this Colts offense in comparison to what they were facing in the Titans offense, where, he says, hey, if if we blitzed Cam Ward, you saw how they were incapable of making plays. But the thing is, you do that against this Colts offense, you're leaving that the backside of that defense exposed. And sure, that backside of that defense is much, much better than the Miami Dolphins are. And no doubt that is going to make for some struggles for Daniel Jones. But again, it definitely is still the same message that the Indianapolis Colts will take more advantage of you blitzing. So maybe Vance will tone back on it a little bit. But we will just have to see. Either way, regardless of how that backside of that defense looks, if you are the Colts and you want any chance of trying to get that passing offense going, you have to be able to protect Daniel Jones. Moving on to the second part here, another pivotal part in the offense moving is being able to run the football. In the first week, it was a little bit more, it wasn't too bad of an effort for the Indianapolis Colts between Jonathan Taylor and DJ Giddens, both having, 30 rushes for 120 yards, averaging 4 yards a carry. That you'll take that any day of the week, any opponent that you go against. And hopefully this Indianapolis Colts team will continue to put up those kinds of numbers. Again, JT's had some great games against the Denver Broncos. I know a lot of people want to go back to that infamous moment last year where he dropped that touchdown right before the goal line, and that obviously was one of the big reasons why the Indianapolis Colts ended up losing that tremendous lead that they had against the Denver Broncos last year. But again, if you want to keep Daniel Jones in the fight and you want to be able to move the ball against a Denver Broncos defense that's so good, you got to be able to run the football. You got to put your offense in good situations, Cody.
You do, yeah. And to the offensive line's credit, even though I thought they started kind of shaky running the football, in that first half, it wasn't anything great. I do feel like in that second half, they started to find their mojo a little bit. So, hopefully that is a good sign of things to come from that running game. Even when JT wasn't in there for a good chunk of that second half, DJ Giddens, man, was finding some lanes to run it through. So that certainly is positive things. And, this Denver run defense, at least against the Tennessee Titans, again, no, they don't have the greatest offensive line in the world, but I thought they did a pretty sound job all day long, all things considered. I think Tennessee averaged only about 3.4 yards per carry. So I thought they did a pretty good job for the most part on containing that Tennessee rushing attack. So, will Indianapolis be able to establish the run? Because like we said, this Denver secondary is miles better than the Miami Dolphins secondary, let's be honest. So that might force you to have to run the ball a little bit more. So you need to be a little bit more effective, especially early on. And if you can establish that from snap one on offense, I think it's going to help you out tremendously in a game like this where, honestly, if you're passing it, I think that helps in a lot of ways what the Broncos want to force you to do because of the strength that is their secondary. So that's kind of where I think, right, yeah, you're right. You need to be able to just find that balance, running the football versus throwing the football. And if you can establish that running game with Jonathan Taylor, DJ Giddens, potentially Tyler Goodson as well if he comes back this week, all that stuff I think will be critical in order to sustain those drives like we saw the Colts do in week one, right? Because the Colts, frankly, Derek, they dominated pretty much in every aspect. And a big reason for that is because they were able to stay on the field on offense a lot. And, if they can continue to do that by running the football, I think that'll just go tremendously in their favor if they hope to continue to win the time of possession and keep their defense fresh, honestly. So, yeah, man, I really think if they can run the football, because like you said, JT's had his good moments against this Denver Broncos team in the past running the football. If they're able to do that, I think it's going to go bode well for their offense and not force them to have Daniel Jones throw the ball 30 times. That'll be really helpful.
No doubt. Moving on to another key of victory here. We're moving over to the defensive side of things. Really, it's going to be the next man up mentality when it comes to this defense. Unfortunately, guys, the injury bug is already coming out when it comes to this defense right now. Very likely that Charvarius Ward and Jalen Jones will both not be playing in this game against Denver. So you're missing out on not only some depth at the cornerback position, but also one of the better corners in the NFL right now for this matchup as well. And then, of course, Latu, who also is dealing with a hamstring injury that he was not practicing today. So very unlikely that he plays either. So you're missing some very valuable pieces on this defense. And it is going to be a battle of attrition when it comes to this defense, because again, Cody, you're missing out on, who you're supposed to be your premier edge guy, and then of course your best corner as well in this particular situation. So Colts backs are against the wall when it comes to the defense, but next man up is just going to have to be the mentality here.
Yeah. So Xavier Howard will probably be that number one corner on the outside. You're going to have to rely on guys like Mekhi Blackman a lot more, who I thought for the limited snaps he had, I thought he was pretty decent last week. And then you're probably going to have to bring up a guy, or you're going to have to rely on a guy like Jonathan Edwards, the undrafted rookie, like to step up and fill into a bigger role. And Derek, there's a reason why they kept him over a guy like Juju Brents, because they believe that he is potentially a diamond in the rough here. So he has an opportunity here early on in the season, like you mentioned. Some of these guys they brought on the back end of the roster that they believe can really help them, they have an opportunity here to really step it up, and prove that they can be, quality pieces moving forward, right? So you're right. It's going to be a next man up. Now, the defensive line, it'd be unfortunate if you miss Latu. I think the good news is you really have a lot of depth there, so you feel pretty okay with that, even though you'd like to have Latu out there. And probably going to be activating, JT Tuimoloau in that case for sure. So you do have some other players that I think can fill the role adequately and be fine. But yeah, missing Charvarius Ward is certainly the biggest hit on this defense, no doubt, because we saw how he really locked up pretty much everyone he was on last week. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of just this next man up mentality, and we'll see if the Colts can do it here against this Broncos offense, who, I'll be honest, Derek, they struggled a week ago. So potentially could be in their favor in that capacity. But yeah, it is going to have to be this next man up. It's unfortunate. I mean, the good thing is, Derek, none of these injuries. I mean, Jalen Jones is going to be a little bit longer, but you're probably likely to get both Latu and Charvarius Ward back next week, barring anything else that happens. So that's the good news. They seem fairly minor in terms of everything. Obviously, concussions are never something to scoff at, but Charvarius Ward hopefully will be back next week. You would hope so. So, yeah, it is unfortunate, but you're right. I mean, this happens to every team. You just got to have your next man up mentality, and that's just going to be what it's have to be this week.
Absolutely. And it goes into the next key point here. You mentioned it. The Denver Bronco offense, while it was able to move the football at a relatively decent pace against the Tennessee Titans, oftentimes had trouble finishing drives. And that was a testament to the tenacity of the Tennessee Titan defense and the game planning that they had for Bo Nix. And in all honesty, you should try to copy the Tennessee Titans defensive game plan that they had against Bo Nix. If you can do what Tennessee did to the offense of the Denver Broncos, which was basically keep them out of the end zone for a good chunk of the game and help to confuse and rattle Bo Nix, then you're going to be sitting in a very comfortable position and a good chance to win at home against Denver, because if you can keep them from scoring 24, 27 points, then you give yourself a fair chance to be able to win this game and go 2-0.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at the game a week ago, and, Bo Nix, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, a 60 quarterback rating. And even last year, Derek, when you played Bo Nix, I know he was a rookie, but he really didn't beat you last year. I felt like you beat yourself more often than not, right? Which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a second. But I do think, if you do something similar where outside of a 50-yard run for RJ Harvey, I mean, Denver couldn't run the football at all last week to save their lives. I mean, if you take away that 50-yard run, RJ Harvey has 6 carries for 20 yards, Derek, and J.K. Dobbins 16 for 63. So you didn't really, outside of that big run, they weren't consistently running the football effectively. And they weren't passing the football effectively either, right? So I think, yeah, you're right. Like if you can copy that game plan and keep Denver, in those high teens to low 20s, I think you feel really good about your chances here in this game. So you're right. I think you got to do a similar attack here, where if you're able to slow down that running attack of Denver, like Tennessee did, and you're able to say, hey, Bo Nix, I know you had a really good season last year, but you're still a young quarterback. Derek, I think that's one thing when we've talked about Louis Anarumo. Again, I know you're going to be down a few players in your secondary, but isn't it just seem like Louis Anarumo is a type of coordinator that just loves these matchups against these young, inexperienced quarterbacks? Because look what he's done against some of the best quarterbacks. So, what could he do against these young quarterbacks, confusing them? And we saw what they did against Tua Tagovailoa, Derek. And Cam Bynum even said it, when he was asked about it. He even said, man, the quarterback didn't know what was going on. He didn't know where we're coming from. We confused him. And it's do you think that Lou Anarumo's licking his chops a little bit? We have a chance here again with a quarterback that just struggled a week ago to really confuse him and force him into some bad decisions, just like he did against Tennessee. So I think that's certainly a thing. If you're Indianapolis, you do that. You disguise some things. You send some guys on blitzes when Bo Nix isn't expecting it. If you can rattle him and confuse him, Derek, I think you have a really good chance in this one, because we saw Tennessee do it. That formula worked well on the defensive side of things. If you can do that and you continue to do what you did a week ago, I think you have a really good chance in this one, Derek, to get some key takeaways.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with you there. And then the last key to victory, when talking about what this team needs to do to win on Sunday against Denver, and it's probably very obvious, and it could probably be a key point of victory for a lot of things, but especially for this week when you're facing a team that thrives on causing chaos. Don't feed into it. No stupid turnovers. The Indianapolis Colts, you were +3 in the turnover differential last week against Miami. Caused 3 turnovers, no turnovers given up. It's exactly what you want to do against Denver. Don't give them the ball back. Don't do it. It is okay to go 3 and out on occasion. It is okay to have a drive stall, but it is a really, really bad idea to give Denver any chance of having any sort of momentum when their defense is coming after you. Don't give them the ball back. And Cody, especially if you are an Indianapolis Colts fan, you know this after what we saw in last year's game when Shane Steichen called one of the jankiest and wackiest trick plays that we have ever seen. And it was a pick 6 from Adonai Mitchell back to Anthony Richardson, and it was a pick 6. So, doing stupid stuff like that, don't do that. Don't do that. We cannot afford to have something like that happen, especially when that turnover comes straight to points, right? So you got to keep it out of their defense's hands. Do not allow that defense to put their offense in good positions to succeed.
And for the love of everything, JT, hang on to the football, man. Not just JT. Everybody hang on to the football. If you're going to score, hold that baby with 2 hands, man. Please. Just do the things you're going to do, Derek, because that was the start of the downfall in that game for the Colts. That play, you were going to go up, I think, by double digits at that point, right?
Oh, at least mistaken. I think it was going to be a 17-point game at that point.
Right, so you're going to go up and potentially had a chance to really take that game, and then that happens, kills your momentum, and then, like you mentioned, that pick 6 just kind of cemented it, and all of a sudden it looked like he got blown out, and you're like, no, this was a close game, I promise you it was. So yeah, I think if you just eliminate the stupid turnovers, I mean, to his credit, Daniel Jones did a great job of that last week. No turnovers for the Colts. He had one scary one, but other than that, I felt like he took care of the football pretty well. So yeah, if you're Indianapolis and you just, are able to stay on track and, not try to play hero ball, sometimes if you're Daniel Jones, which he did a good job there last week, but don't make a bad play worse. If it's a sack, take the sack. Don't try to do something extra. Because that's when bad things turn to really bad things, Derek. Yeah, like if bad plays are going to happen, it's just a part of the game. Accept that, move on, be okay punting the football if you have to. You don't want to. And sometimes, Derek, I know Shane Steichen's a guy that likes to go for it a lot. Sometimes it's okay to take the points as well. So I think it's just finding that right balance there. If you're Shane Steichen of not, you never want to back down. You want to do things and not be scared, but also you want to be smart about things as well and realize it's a long football game. You got other opportunities and you just got to figure that out. So yeah, just from the player standpoint, don't turn the ball over. From Shane Steichen's standpoint, make smart in-game decisions as well. I think that will be helpful. Whether it's choosing to kick a field goal or whether it's not throwing a screen pass back to your quarterback that gets a pick six. Like just do the normal stuff that you do because it worked against Miami, right? Just do what you did well and do that again. Now, again, Denver's going to be a tougher challenge, but do the things you can do and do them well.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. This is our keys to victory for the Indianapolis Colts against Denver on Sunday. Guys, we will be at the game on Sunday, but don't you worry. We have someone covered for a live stream here on Bring the Juice, so don't worry. There will still be a live stream here on this channel on game day on Sunday, so don't miss out on that. And if you are coming to Indianapolis for the game, come say hey to us. Let us know you're there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, go Colts.